All right. Good
That
night,
little ditty we
family.
used to torment our teachers with when we were kids goes something like this. Onward, upward, Mary had a go. Day by day she tied it to a rope, till at length they got bust the rope, and Miss Mary had to run behind it. We had a lot of fun with that, but do you actually know how beautiful these words are? Here's the Song of Guyana's Children by W. Hawley Bryant. Born in the land of the mighty Roraima, land of great rivers and far-stretching sea, so like the mountains, the sea, and the river, great, wide, and deep in our lives would we be. Onward, upward, may we ever go, day by day in strength and beauty grow, till at length we each of us may show what Guyana sons and daughters can be. Born in the land of Kaiture's shining splendor, land of the palm tree, the croton and fern, we would possess all the virtues and graces, we all the glory of goodness would learn. Onward, upward, may we ever go, day by day in strength and beauty grow, till at length we each of us may show what Guyana sons and daughters can be. Born in the land where men sought El Dorado, land of the diamond and bright shining gold, we would build up by our faith, love, and labor God's golden city, which never grows old. Onward, upward, may we ever go, day by day in strength and beauty grow, till at length we each of us may show what Guyana sons and daughters can be.
All right. Okay, good night. Good night, family. Good night, viewers. Welcome to the Figueira show. Much thanks to my brother Mark Benchcott for providing me with this opportunity, for providing me with this platform to be here with you guys every Thursday night uh, at 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. on 104.7. We are live on Facebook and we are live on Benchcop Radio. So, welcome. Please share the live and let us increase the viewership. Knowledge is power, and the more we share it, the more people are informed, the more people will know. And knowledge is the only thing you can give away and still retain. So share the live. Let us have a very interesting conversation tonight, right here on 104.1 FM radio. and Bench Cup Radio here in Georgetown, Guyana. All of you who are in the diaspora, welcome. Please share the live. Share the live. Let us have a wide viewership tonight so that we can be engaged in some meaningful conversation. Tonight on the Figueira Show, we have a power pack team. We have a number of guests right here on this show here tonight where we are going to engage in a number of topical issues. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight we are going to be having the Honorable Mr. Kimraj Ramjitan, leader of the Alliance for Change, an astute politician for over 40 years, and an attorney at law, Mr. Kimraj Ramjitan. He's going to be one of our guests here tonight to be a part of our discussion. So go ahead, share the live, let your friends and family know that we are on tonight on 107.1 and we are on Bench Cup Radio here in Georgetown, Guyana. Please share the live so that more persons can be a part of the conversation, more persons can be educated. So, additionally, thank you, Mr. Kimraj Ramjitan. I know you are
Thank you
in
very much,
Jamaica.
Jermaine.
Yes, you are in Mahaika, grounding with the people, a man who has been connecting with the people for many years. We are happy to have you here on the Figueira Show. Compliments of my brother, Mr. Mark Benchcup, 104.7. Additionally, before I engage you in the conversation, I must let the audience know that it's important for them to share the live. We have also the lovely Miss Catherine Hughes, Member of Parliament and Executive Member of the Alliance for Change,
Hi,
former
Kathy.
Minister
Hi.
of Tourism and Telecommunication. Mr. Ramjitan, too, audience, if for those of you who may not be aware, was also the Minister of Public Security. And we all know that security in Guyana is under threat. And definitely we have the effervescent, youthful, very candid and bold, confident, strong woman, Miss Amanda Walton Nazir, my fellow young member of parliament and fellow Lindener in the house. Please share the live, people. Tonight we have Rumble in the Jungle. A lot of very important topics for us to discuss here tonight. And I know you are going to be entertained. You are going to be most definitely educated. Knowledge is power, and it is the only thing we can give away and still retain. So share the live so that more persons can be educated on a number of topics. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight we are going to be engaging in the discussion on the issues of no confidence motion. I figure you guys would have been following the political conversation right here in Guyana, and you are aware that there are three no confidence motion that is being discussed in the public's domain, and we want you to question us, ask, is there merit in those no confidence motion? Is it timely? Is it something that should be brought to the public domain with respect to who it is leveled at? And more so, is it constitutional? I'm happy we have the legal sage right here with us, two attorneys at law, Mr. Kimraj Ramjitan, a man with a wealth of parliamentary experience and experience in the courts, fighting these jagabats. And definitely have Miss Amanza Nazir and Miss Catherine Hughes, whose husband is a very prominent lawyer, and I know she has been a very good student. So she too is very much au fait with matters concerning the law. So let us proceed, Mr. Ramjitan. I know you you are a strong supporter of the no confidence motion that we would have put against your predecessor, Mr. Robson Ben, the Minister of Home Affairs. The man who has taken over your portfolio. Rock up
That's true,
Ben, they call
Jermaine.
him when he was public.
Yeah.
What are your views on that?
No, certainly.
Do you
And
think
we
it's
must.
timely?
Are you hearing me?
Yes,
Loud
go
and
ahead,
clear.
go ahead.
Yeah.
No
Okay.
confidence motion against Robson Ben.
No, I think it is very much timely, and it is all the more relevant because of the fact that we are being, you can say, excluded from bringing up motions in relation to these very many sectors. I believe that what we are doing here by bringing no confidence motion in relation to health and security comes as a result of what we are seeing happening in Parliament, namely the Speaker, by virtue of a prorogation mode, excluding debate that are emerging out of the opposition or which are opposition inspired. He has ruled on several occasions thus far that the motions brought by the opposition members on matters of Amerindian affairs, on matters of the flood and the implications of the flood, and matters of oil and gas, like the flaring and Exxon's misconduct in relation to the terms of the contract. We can't get going. And so it's in that context where we had 98 days of prorogation of Parliament, in that sense, where no work could have been carried out. And then now, when the 98 days are completed and we are ready to go and we bring our motions, they're disqualified on frivolous grounds, one of which is sub judice, one of which is discretionary disqualification, and so on. We are now left to evolve a strategy that will ensure that our motions will be heard. And one of the safest ways is to bring no confidence motions against ministers. And I believe that it's in that perspective that it should be realized that this motion is relevant against Robeson Ben and the health minister for purposes of ensuring that we can have a debate. We know that we're going to lose by virtue of the numbers in that debate, in the sense of not having it being approved of, the removal of or the no confidence of that minister. But at the end of the day, by the time we would have worked our arguments as to what we are doing to scrutinize, to expose, to oppose the PPP regime, we would have made a lot of sense and we would have educated people there about how we are scrutinizing and holding accountable the government of the day. That is the function of a good opposition. When in the face of a speaker that is blocking us from doing our jobs, we could come up with strategies. Now, I am hoping that he is not going to be that kind of a speaker who might very well want to say, based on the advice of Anil Nandalal, and here again, he has made a mistake when he has sent that thing up for Anil to advise on the motions, that he comes up and say that there can't be no confidence motions against ministers. Well, that will be the day. It will create a massive disaffection. It might lead to civil strife, because what else can an opposition do? And they better watch what they're doing via the speaker, because I am absolutely certain that the speaker must be coming under tremendous pressure by Bharat Jagdeo and Anil Nandalal and those rest. And that is, so I want
But,
people to
but
understand why
Mr.
we are
Ranjita,
doing what we are doing.
yes. Yeah, I want to agree with respect to the pressure. But Miss Scotty Hughes, I mean, the the Speaker of the House is seeking a legal opinion from the very people who elected him to be the Speaker of the House, in that of the Attorney General. Attorney General. What was your view in that? I mean, it is
I,
level.
I,
It's like you asking cat to watch milk. What's your view?
I really do believe that maybe nobody told the speaker that he has the power to run his parliament, to be fair and to be independent. And therefore, I know from speakers in the past, they have done their own research. They've gone back into, the various precedents that have been set. They've even asked for opinions from other parliaments within the region, internationally, and those are the places that they have gotten their guidance and information from. So I think it is a comedy show, really, to think that the speaker would think that he would go and have to ask the attorney general, who certainly has a very vested interest in one area and to one group, and expect that you're going to get a fair, and an honest interpretation of an issue. So I think that the speaker just hasn't maybe read his standing orders, hasn't made himself familiar with the power he has. It's very sad, and it's unbelievable.
Yes, I agree. Ms. Amanza, you have been one of those who would have been suspended by the speaker misusing the standing orders. And in light of these motions, I know we have one against the Minister of Health and the Minister. I mean, COVID is over 500 deaths so far. Do you believe those motions put by us, and I know you can represent it with regards to those no confidence motion against Robeson Ben and Frank Anthony. What would you like to say in regards to that? And the speaker seeking a legal opinion from the very people who appointed him concerning the leader of the opposition.
Well, Jermaine, good night, everyone. Hi, Kathy. Hi, Camraj.
I
Good
Hi.
night, your listeners. I fully endorse what Kathy and Camraj have said. It is really
Yes.
a comedy that you would. There's a thing called separation of powers, for a reason. And so the speaker, as as somebody functioning within the legislature, should get independent legal advice and not go to the executive to do that. So the fact that such a fundamental, basic doctrine he does not appear to have a grasp of, I am in distress about the matter because it appears as though we 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 have a regime in place who's fully content to play football with the constitution and to just disregard fundamental and cornerstone rules of law, etc. So I I am hopeful that the speaker sees the light and allows the motion. Because as Kemraj said, when you have an opposition that has been patient and forbearing and are using all of the legitimate means to do what it is that we have an obligation to do, you are pushing the country to anarchy. The speaker must understand that parliament is an
Yes,
important outlet for
I
people
agree. I mean,
represented by the
yes.
people they elected to represent them. And when you muzzle that, you're treading on dangerous grounds.
That's an important point,
I mean,
Jermaine.
Kat, he has indicated. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, let
Oh,
me.
before you go,
That
I
is
mean,
an
Kat, he has
important
said
point
that.
just made by Amanza.
Yes,
You have the legal advisor of government, which is the chief that is called the executive branch, the government, is the attorney general. The speaker, on the other hand, is the leader of the legislative branch of government. And in a normal democracy, one of the guardrails is this concept of separation of powers. And when you have
yes,
an attorney general who is chief legal advisor to the executive branch being asked to give legal advice to the legislative branch, it is upturning and dismantling another guardrail of, yeah, look him there. showing whatever he's showing there. So it is important to understand that this guy, the speaker talk about here, seems not to appreciate these democratic conventions, that he ought to have gone to an independent legal advisor, and one that has experience in matters with parliamentary practices. And probably, just like they went for help in the CARICOM, they could have gone there. I know there is a powerful speaker of the Jamaican Parliament,
Yeah.
House of Representative, that they could have gone to. They could have gone to Barbados. They have big tradition there about parliamentary democracy and so on. And even the present speaker in Trinidad and Tobago. But they did not go there. So it is because they want to have advice that probably Jagdeo indicated they could get from Anil Nandalal, that they come back straight. Because we all know that the present Attorney General, Anil Nandalal, is a very political Attorney General. He's not like the professional one that we had in Adudnath Singh, or even a Bernardes Santos, who has a grasp of understanding that in certain realms, he is not going to go and deal unprofessionally and primarily politically. But an Anil Nandalal, you can't help it, and he can't help himself but be political. So it was wrong on the part of the speaker to give him to advise, and secondly, wrong on the part of Anil Nandalal, knowing the doctrine of separation of powers, to go and say, yes, I will take it to go and give the advice.
Kati, I want to agree with Kim Raj, and more so your comment with respect to the legislature being made into a mockery. I mean, the very motion in itself, confidence level against the leader of the opposition, it by itself is unconstitutional, and the Constitution speaks to that. I think it's Article 184. Am I right, Miss Amanza?
Yes, it is Article 184, and it says that very clearly.
So,
Go ahead,
Jermaine,
Kati.
you're right in that it just makes a mockery of what is a very serious issue and a serious complaint. No confidence motions are not to be taken lightly. One puts it on the table really at the end of trying to negotiate, trying to share, trying to ensure that this Article 13 that talks about an inclusive democracy is actually functioning. And so to just kind of respond with a very cleverous, stupid response, well, we're going to have a no confidence motion against the leader of the opposition when they have no power to, first of all, select who the leader of the opposition is, and certainly no power to remove him. It's jokes, it's stupidness. And it is sad with at a time when there's so many challenges that the country is facing. And at the parliamentary level, I mean, I've been in parliament since 2011, and unfortunately, I don't think that parliament works today, and that's a sad state to get to, and therefore to have that kind of stupid tit for tat response is very, very sad. It's very sad. I think the people of Guyana, who depend on us to represent them, are the ones that must say, this is nonsense, absolute nonsense.
Definitely. Amanza, the Minister of Health, he is facing also a no confidence motion. He has badly handled COVID, even though he has two former ministers of health as his advisor, Mr. Leslie Ramsamy and Barry Ramsey, and several other advisors. And COVID seems to be, matter of fact, it is out of control in Guyana. The vaccine scandal, COVID relief fund, and so much alleged corruption involved in all of those distribution. Wouldn't you agree that the Minister of Health has failed the nation and would have put the health and safety of every Guyanese at risk?
I think the Ministry of Health and by extension the entire government, this installed regime, they have failed the people of Guyana. Look, you unfortunately have in place an administration that believes that they must politicize the response to COVID 19. And it is the most nonsensical approach to the management of this pandemic. We have asked time and time again, let us have a bipartisan approach to this thing. You have a committee, invite members of the opposition to sit on the committee so that you can demonstrate to the Guyanese people that, look, when it comes to the management of this pandemic in our country, there's no distance between us. We are working together. No, that is not good for for this cabal. So you have this very authoritarian approach. And yes, we have this under control when clearly they do not have it under control. It is so out of control that you have one of the people from their own camp now writing to the purported president to say, man, look, sleeping,
Yeah.
flouting the regulations, and we can no longer stay silent. There
Mhm.
is just no comprehensive plan. And the way this government is managing COVID, it appears as though they are just allowing those who they are indebted to get away with literally murder, because that is what these people are just knowingly endangering the health of the people of Guyana. And so, of course, the motion of no confidence against him is well founded.
I think
And I wanted to add, folks, that this issue of the vaccine and vaccine hesitancy, I warned about when I spoke, I think in the last budget debate, that the attitude of the PPPC in terms of distributing the COVID 19 cash grants would directly affect people's confidence in them when it comes to administering the vaccines.
Mhm.
But they couldn't see it. And so people are saying, well, you didn't come and give me $25,000. You want me now to go take a vaccine? Why? Why should I trust you?
Yep.
And so these things are adding to the hesitancy. But when the opposition makes the point that to procure these vaccines from a middleman, we're not sure we have the right stuff, we're not even sure what we have, you turn around to blame them for vaccine hesitancy. It is nonsensical. And it demonstrates very clearly that the government does not have a plan. You had to get 200,000 doses from a middleman, but you get the second dose directly from the source. What nonsense is that?
Yep.
Yes.
I think the
I
other, Jermaine,
Go ahead, Kachi.
the other thing too was that, as you know, we raised some concerns. And this is where the attitude of the government, of the installed government, in terms of how they respond to questions, backfires on them, and they don't even seem to realize that. So when some pertinent questions are asked in any other jurisdiction, in any other country, the government would be bending over backwards to answer all those questions. So when they take the attitude that I'm not going to give you the batch number, I'm not going to tell you when it arrived, and I'm not going to convince you that it was stored properly, they don't realize that your refusal to answer those key issues also
Yes.
impacts on people's confidence in taking the vaccine. The government really should be bending over backwards, and every question that is asked should be automatically answering to the extent they try to convince you that everything is covered. The attitude should be, citizens, you have nothing to worry about. You have nothing to worry about. They should be proving the opposition wrong. Instead, the attitude has been, we don't have to answer the questions. The other thing too that I've mentioned before is that, the APNU AFC administration made sure that they invited the then opposition, the PPP, to be part of that COVID task force. Of course, they refused to participate. That's a very important point. So you decide in your stupid attitude not to invite the party that represents 49% of the population to participate in that task force. And what you don't realize is that as we go out, we are encouraging people to take the vaccine, but we also say that we recognize it's a personal decision. But where we are at a disadvantage is that when the public asks us some pertinent questions, we have no answers other than what we read in the newspapers. The opposition, the members of parliament on the other side of the house, get all the information on COVID in the general public like any citizen. And yet you expect us to be armed with the information and to help to convince people to take this vaccine. So that's where it's total stupidness as usual. And I know, Amanza, you said earlier that you were hopeful with regard to the Speaker of the House. I have no hope when it comes to him and the entire PPP administration in the managing of key issues. You know, the COVID task force, the COVID challenge. And yes, you're right. How can we expect him to be independent? We know that he comes from that party, but at least have independent thought and action. We had Raphael Troutman that everybody knew at one stage was the leader of the AFC, but Raphael went out of his way to appear to be independent and to be independent. It's chalk and cheese.
Yes. So, Kati, I agree. I agree with you. Listen, it is quite evident that this no confidence motion is timeless. Most it has merit, and it should be laid and put to the parliament for a healthy debate. Let Guyanese know that the opposition is just not just putting a motion willy nilly against Frank. Frank is a nice guy. So this has nothing to do with you being a nice guy. It's about you serving the people of Guyana in a manner that they are safe, in a manner that COVID is placed under control, the world's most deadly virus. And he has failed us, despite all of the help he has with three advisors. But they of themselves, honorable members, have been breaching their own COVID protocols. Just 2 days ago, the ministers of housing was in Linden and held a big distribution of house plots with everybody cramped under a tent, putting the region that has the lowest vaccination rate nationwide under more risk. So it is self-evident that they have been failing us. But Kati, this COVID reality has created a different experience for the learning environment, the teacher-student relationship. And you, as the Minister of Telecommunication, undoubtedly would have done a phenomenal job in putting Guyanese online and more so providing young people in the hinterland communities with opportunities to go online with the number of ICT hubs that you would have placed all across this country. Many of them are currently now has been defunct, and a lot of students are being disenfranchised from accessing learning via the virtual platform. What would you say in this regard? And more so, the minister is talking about the $19,000 cash grant, which we are saying to all Guyanese, collect the money because it's taxpayers' money. But will the objective be achieved?
I don't think so. And this is where, the petty politics that characterizes Guyana really means that at the end of the day, Guyanese people, Guyanese children are the ones that suffer. So let us be totally honest. The children that have been able to go to school and learn over the last year and a half are all the children that are at a specific socio income bracket, or children that have access to a device for a start, that have access to regular internet, that have access to maybe a place in the home where they can sit quietly and go through their lessons for the 3 or 4 hours. The reality is that that is alien to a large number of poor people in Guyana today. So they've been left by the wayside, and there's no doubt about that. So when we talk about the technology, I am saddened that we literally had a head start without knowing that COVID was coming. Over the last 5 years, enough infrastructure had been put in place. And all this government had to do was to continue with that infrastructure in terms of offering free internet access to communities through ICT hubs, to schools, to government agencies, to RDCs, to NGO offices, to orphanages. I would have put aside my bitterness and not take the attitude because it's APNU AFC and because maybe it's Minister Kathy Hughes. We ain't gonna look at it. But you could have come and done 3 times more. Make what we had done. You make it 3 times better. You expand it. Just as how we connected, we created 173 ICT hubs. You do a close to another 200. And at the end of the day, with careful planning, with observing all the rules of social distancing, we could have had more children accessing the internet. I mean, all those ICT hubs in community centers and in communities. Imagine if the community themselves decided that, you know what, all our children that are doing grade 6 or doing CSEC or doing exams, they're the ones that they could have worked out their own schedule where they would have been able to come at a certain time in the community, a few of them at a time, and still be able to access the internet and online learning. If you don't have money in Guyana today, you are not going to be able to learn as a child. And this is where the We Care campaign is just really an opportunity for the private sector to garner more funds that the government is going to purchase, is going to send directly to them. And what's worrying is that it's supposed to be for children, but there's nothing to make sure that a parent spends that $19,000 on the child and on education. That's the first challenge. The second challenge, as I've said, is that if you don't have a device, how far is that 19 and you don't have internet, how far is that device, that 19,000 going to go? Most of the devices that are available today, the cheapest costs about 7,000 Guyana dollars. And I did a check online of the cheapest internet packages for a month. So the cheapest internet package by one of our two major telephone companies costs 5,400 a month. And then you've got the other company that's doing it for 5,789. So really with the 19,000, you would have been able to purchase maybe 2 internet packets or 1.5 internet packages for 1.5 months, and you might have been able to purchase a device. That's all you're going to be able to do. So what happens to the programs? And this is where the NDMA and the government should be paying for more internet access. It's really interesting because we left in place a hinterland poor and remote communities project. And I'd like to just read. There was an article in the papers about 3 months ago saying that the rollout under this project, and this is a 17 million project funded by the GRIF Fund, they said that the implementation of the next set of 200 hubs would be delayed. But the reality is, We still haven't heard sufficient. Region 1 was supposed to get 22 more hubs, Region 2, 7, Region 4, 15, Region 5, 2, Region 6, 4. This is just under this project, which is in addition to the government putting aside funds for the NDMA or such an agency to provide more hubs. And at each of these hubs, there were close to their 37 in region 10, there are 52 in region 9. So as I said to you, close to 200 hubs. And each of those hubs were supposed to get 12 laptops, a printer, a scanner, a 32-inch television, which allows for video conferencing facilities, and also, of course, security lights and cameras. So all of that infrastructure could have been in addition to what was already existing. And there's no information out there about that taking place.
Yes,
And you would have thought that this would have been a
definitely. And we have to
priority.
really,
Maybe I could add also, that in other countries, what they've done is that for poor people, children, or for people that don't have access to the internet, the government has purchased a little remote, a little wireless remote. It's a tiny little device. They actually sell it on Amazon. And so you would give that to a child or a community that doesn't have internet because it's a portable internet access. And they would be able to, through the government, the e-government network, anybody that's given one of those portable units would be able to access the internet. And the way you protect it is that you would allow children to access it at certain times that you know they would be using it for schoolwork and for educational purposes. And also, the technology allows you to block it. So you're only accessing educational sites. So the argument that you don't want to give people or children in communities that kind of device because they're going to download movies from Netflix, you have protection in place that will make sure that it's only used for educational purposes. So, there's loads of things that could be done. Um, in other countries too, the government works with the telephone companies and they provide a special internet package for children, for students that are less than the regular cost of these packages. And I know that about 6 weeks ago, I called up the telephone companies because I'd been asked the question if there were any special internet packages for students in Guyana. And up to 6 weeks ago, there were none that had been negotiated or had been put in place for students. So, this is just to show you all the possibilities technology offers and how we are failing drastically. There's so much more
agreed.
we could have done, Jermaine.
Yes, I mean over $3 billion of dollars in taxes will be rolled out with this week here program, but no child from the private sector, from the private institutions will benefit, and more so the ministers thinking about reopening school with the deaths of COVID and the risk involved are unbearable, unacceptable. Amanza, in wrapping up, we have 10 minutes more remaining, according to Mr. Mark Benchcup. So we're happy that you guys took time to come on the program. But in wrapping up, can you share some closing remarks to the audience who are with us here tonight with respect to all that we would have discussed and your parting words of encouragement? Amanza.
Look, Jermaine, I wanted to expand on something that Kathy said because I think it's very, very important. And I get the impression that sometimes when
Yes.
people hear us speak, they hear that we are against the grant. We wish to be clear. We are not against government giving any citizen money. But what we will not stand for is for them to do it on the false pretense. This is not about, look, we are the August holidays, are we not?
Yeah.
Schools are closed. Is it that we expect for this money to be kept until, you see, look, sometimes you have to get very practical. As parents, we would, you know that your children grow over the holidays. You, what? Are we going to keep this $19,000 to wait until late August when we sure that they would
Now
have,
when everything
you
gone
know,
up,
it is, look, the point that I'm making is that we have to be able to see beyond the surface. And so this money will end up going to the private sector because they need an injection of cash. That is what it is. And I would say, like I said to
pushing the
everybody,
economy.
you be at the first of the line to collect any money the government giving you. But
Yeah.
what we will continue to do is expose their motives because it's not about their care. They don't care about the ordinary man and woman. Had they done that, they would have also looked at giving these children parents an increase in
Yeah.
their salaries. Kathy made an important point. What mechanisms are there for you to ensure that this money is being spent on children's education? And you would not be able to blame parents for not spending it on the children's education because the cost of living is rising exponentially every day. And so
Yes.
these are the things that we have to continue to highlight. It is so sad when we go out into the communities, and Kathy and Kemraj could bear us out. What happened to the ICT hub? They, oh, it don't work.
Hmm.
They've just refused to
Switch it
build
off.
on what was left there.
Yeah.
And the children and the people are, our children are punishing. When you think about the education gap, the learning gap that would have happened when we, would
Yeah.
have gotten over COVID, how are we going to, how are we going to make sure that those who are already disadvantaged are not further disadvantaged? We have a window of opportunity from making this into, from preventing this from becoming a total national disaster. And we are
Yes.
squandering that window of opportunity. I have not heard the government speak about things like the resilience of the education sector. And COVID has shown us that whatever we do in education planning now, you have to build in the issue of resilience. We experienced high flooding, the highest, the worst flood we've ever had in our history, the
Yes.
worst pandemic in recent history. What are you talking about resilience? It, there is no plan, Jermaine. There is no plan. And unfortunately, this will just pump money into the private sector because they need a stimulus. It is an indirect way of getting
Definitely
a
there's no
stimulus
plan.
to the private sector. I was appalled to hear that the president is making a pitch to the CDB about assisting the private sector. That was his focus. And so we keep saying that this government does not care about the working class. They don't care. They
We don't
don't
care about the
care.
students either because there's no
Yeah,
vaccine
they don't.
available
They
for
don't
the
care.
students.
And
And
Kathy
you
is
want to
right.
open back school.
The
Kimraj,
gap between the have and the have nots will just increase, and we will be. I'm not sure how we will tackle this, but I
yes,
want the people of Guyana to understand that we're not just drawing attention to this because we are opposing it. If you are going to do something that makes sense and that ensures that the people of Guyana genuinely benefit.
definitely, definitely. We leave the senior politician for last to wrap up for us.
Well, I want to say, Jermaine, all the more because of the intellectually robust Amanza Mizir and Kathy Hughes, we have to start thinking about a no confidence motion against the education minister
Yeah,
too, because
Yep.
that is certainly another debacle and a fiasco that we are going to. There you go. There's my satire girl, uh, and so it is important that we do start preparing for that sector too. All the shenanigans that might be utilized now for purposes of cajoling and comforting parents and students and so on will not go a far way. They are short term. What we have to do in this crisis of COVID and that extraordinarily heavy piece of flooding that we had in all the regions is to ensure that we think long term. We think about those things with the technologies that Kathy had at hand and so on to ensure that our students are not going to be suffering as they are. And so I urge us, my parting comment here, start the third no confidence motion in relation to the education minister for purposes of ensuring that we can get the debate done as to the tremendous the tremendously wise things that we did whilst in government as against what the nonsense is now happening. And let it be that other motion that comes up so that we will educate the public and scrutinize the government. Thank you and have a good night.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kimraj Ramjitan, Miss Catherine Hughes, and Miss Amanza Walton Desir for being on the Figueira Show 104, 107.1 FM.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. Every Thursday night we will be here, and definitely we will take your advice into consideration, Mr. Ramjitan, and bring that no confidence motion. Definitely, you guys will be invited once again on the 104, 107.1 show, Figueira. Again, I want to say thank you for gracing me and our audience with your presence. It was very informative, very educational. Knowledge is power. And let us share it because it is the only thing we can share and continue to retain. So once again, good night and have a blessed night. Straight Up is next on the Mark Bench Cup show, straight up on 107.1 and Mark Bench Cup radio right here in Georgetown. Please, please go and share the live feed. Knowledge is power, people. Thank you very much for being with us here tonight on the Figueira Show 107.1. Do
Good
have a
night,
blessed night.
Diana.
Good night, Kathy. Good night, all.
Good night.
She put a pot on she hair and gone. Them a the first one out on the dam. Basket on she head, bucket in each hand. Hold up on she frock, I wanna she grandson. To the market, them a go. For the morning, the day is dawning. For cockacrow to give the villagers a warning. Rise and shine, the birds them a sing. All animal take turn as them join in the waking.